What would have to be true in the market for your niche to be wrong? If there's no scenario under which you'd revise it, if you can't answer that question, then it's not a hypothesis, it's a belief. Beliefs don't get tested, they get defended. Here's a test I run on niche statements. One question: what would have to be true in the market for your niche to be wrong? If there's no scenario under which you'd revise it, if you can't answer that question, then the niche isn't a hypothesis, it's a belief. Beliefs don't get tested, they get defended. And a niche that only gets defended never gets better. A hypothesis niche has a specific structure. I'll read it exactly so you can write it down. I believe specific buyer, role, context, life stage, if relevant, has a recognized problem, in the buyer's language, not coaching language, that they are willing to invest, approximate price range, to solve through coaching, specifically engagement structure. And then the falsification clause. I will know this is wrong if I conduct 20 buyer conversations and fewer than X of them recognize the problem I described. Every variable in that format is testable. That's the point of the format. The phrase "in the buyer's language" is doing real work in that format, and it's worth stopping on. A buyer in financial services doesn't say they need clarity. They say they need to get their VP peers to take their ideas seriously. Those are not the same thing. One is a coaching concept. The other is a Tuesday morning problem. Your niche is working if a buyer reads it and thinks, "That's me," not if they think that sounds like coaching. The hypothesis format forces the translation from coaching language to buyer language. The affirmation niche skips that step entirely. If you're coming into Module 2 from the audit and reposition work in Module 1.5, the Path C reentry, a brief note. The niche hypothesis card is still your tool. The mechanics are identical. The difference is that you're writing version N+1, not version 1.0. You may already have market signal from an existing practice. Feed it in. The card still requires all 5 variables stated explicitly, and the falsification criterion still has to be set at a threshold that would actually make you update. Here's a hypothesis niche done right. I'm going to read it fully, because the structure is the thing to hear. I believe mid-level engineering managers, 3 to 5 years into their first people management role, usually at Series B or later tech companies, have a recognized problem. They're competent technically and terrible politically, and the mismatch is starting to cost them. They know it. They'll pay somewhere between $400 and $800 a session for a coach who's been in that world and can talk both languages. I'll know this hypothesis is wrong if I talk to 20 of them and fewer than 12 immediately recognize terrible at politics as their own situation. That's a hypothesis. It has a buyer, a problem in buyer's language, a price signal, and a falsification criterion. You can test it, you can update it, you can be wrong about it. All 3 of those things matter. Here's why the falsification criterion is load-bearing, not just structural. A coach runs 10 conversations on a hypothesis about women re-entering the workforce after caregiving. 8 of the 10 recognize the problem. But when she follows the interview prompts carefully, we'll get to those in Unit 2.2. 6 of the 8 describe the real urgency not as "how do I re-enter," but as "how do I negotiate the offer once I've already got the interview." Different problem, different coaching scope, probably a different price point. The coach who treats the niche as a hypothesis updates it. The buyer is real. The problem statement was approximate. Now it's tighter. The coach who treats it as a declaration wonders why conversion is lower than expected. Same conversations, different posture toward the data. 2 errors come up consistently when coaches write their first hypothesis niche, and they're worth naming before you write yours. The first, The problem variable still hides an affirmation. I believe executive women who want to lead boldly. Lead boldly is still an affirmation. The problem has to be a buyer's described pain in their language, not a coaching aspiration. If you'd be embarrassed to say it to a non-coach, it's probably the right translation. The second, the falsification threshold is set so low it can't be triggered. If 0 of 20 recognize the problem, I'll update. That's not falsification, that's protection. A useful threshold is uncomfortable. If fewer than half recognize the problem, the hypothesis needs revision. Set it there. The niche hypothesis card is the paired resource for this unit. It's on the lesson page. It's a single-page instrument where all 5 variables get written down and kept as a live document. Not filed away, not polished for the website, kept live. You're marking it version 1.0. After the 20 conversations in Unit 2.2, it becomes version 2.0. Fill it in before you move on. All 5 variables: buyer profile, problem in buyer's language, price signal, outcome description, and falsification criterion. You've got a hypothesis, or at least the structure of one. The hypothesis is only as good as the test you run on it. There's exactly one way to test a niche hypothesis that actually works: talking to people who might hire you, not a survey, not a focus group, not asking your coaching peers what they think. 20 conversations with qualified potential buyers. That's Unit 2.2. The next video covers who qualifies, where to find them, and how to get the meeting.